What is up, everyone? Scott Brandt, one half of Two Native Sons, coming to you tonight on this beautiful Wednesday. All blues together. It's good times. First off, I want to give a shout out to my business partner. Hopefully, you and Sharon are doing well, Patrick. I know you got some stuff going on. You got some stuff you're dealing with. So hopefully, you guys are getting better, starting to round the bend of feeling better. But if not, take care of yourself. Do what you need to. And so the show must go on. So I get to do the Dreamer Cypher by myself tonight, which is it's okay. It's one of those things that you kind of sit there, and I know for myself, I was like, what am I going to talk about? I know one thing that's very interesting when you get into a community, that being the podcasting community. It's interesting to watch and listen and see the questions that people ask. And it's just one of those very weird things that Anchor is a great platform. That's what I utilize for a lot of my podcasts that I do. I know for Patrick and I with our sock podcast, we've talked a little bit about that, off the wall shit, crazy stuff and whatnot. But Anchor does help with the distribution of individuals' podcasts. So if you're looking at a platform to get into, Anchor is a great platform. But it's very interesting because on the Facebook group, I'll be watching and people will be like, well, I haven't gotten a sponsorship. How do I go about getting sponsorships? How do I go about, because sponsors are another way that podcasters are able to monetize the value that they bring somebody else, the content that they create. But I have to laugh because it's like we have to quit sitting around and just asking questions and saying, well, how do I go about to get sponsors? How do I go about to monetize my show? And so there's an individual I follow, Travis Brown, and he gives a lot of great information. But the thing is, as a business owner, somebody that's building your dream, your visions, you've got to go out there and do the work. And so when I look at people asking the questions, how do I get sponsors? It's like, you've got to go out there and do the work. You can't just sit there and say, okay, I'll sit here and something will fall in my lap. The sponsor that I'm looking for will find me. No, it's like, you got to go out there and do the work. And it's, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that as a society, we really just want that instant gratification and having to wait and do the work. And it doesn't come easy. And sometimes you may have to make some pivots, but you've got to go and do the work. Showing up, being consistent will work out in your favor. I truly believe that the secret sauce to success is the consistency. And I know for myself, I think I went about a week and a half, and I really think I was fighting the flu. It was not fun. I know that for a while I was like, man, I felt so outside of myself. It was very interesting, but you know what? Did what I could, did what I needed to. I feel 100 times better, but I think I was fighting the flu. It was good times and whatnot, but it gave me a time to just kind of sit back and look and watch and listen and really kind of start picking up what was going on. But, it's one of those things that I tell people that if you're going to start a business, I would highly suggest working with somebody else, finding somebody else that you can partner with and work together. I know Patrick and I have talked about this, that by coming into business with somebody else, having a partner, if something goes awry, you end up dealing with the health aspect for you as an individual. It's kind of hard when you're by yourself, because it's all on you. But if you've got a business partner, it's a beautiful thing that sometimes you may be down and your business partner can jump in there and do what needs to take place, what needs to happen, whatnot. But I think we have the issue where a lot of people are like, no, I can do everything on my own. I'm scared somebody's going to steal my dreams, my ideas. But ultimately, that's where the trust factor comes into play. Like, you've got to trust yourself. You've got to trust who you're coming on board with, that they have that same vision, that same drive, that same view for what you're trying to accomplish, and work together and whatnot. And that can be a very tricky thing when it comes to jumping in and getting into business with somebody else, is you just never know. But ultimately, it's a trust thing. And I think this is one thing that I was talking to somebody about, that a lot of times you may say, oh, I trust myself, but I don't trust other people. Well, you got to remember that what you're putting out, yeah, you may trust yourself, but if you're pushing out and saying, I don't trust other people, that's what you're always going to find. That's what's going to fall into your life. And it's going to be tough, because you're going to be at the point where you're focusing on what is going to go wrong. You're going to focus on why you can't trust somebody. And that's tough, because we got to trust people. And it's not the easiest. Sometimes it's not fun, because you may have gotten burnt before, but you got to understand that you can't allow that situation that happened in the past to dictate what the future looks like. You can learn from the situation and say, okay, what did I not see in the previous relationship or the business partnership that I should be aware of, and I can bring forward. But I think that's also the growth process. That's the importance of the progression as an individual. The growth as an individual is you have to be able to go back to the past and look and see what went wrong and what you need to learn from that situation, and bring that lesson forward. That way you can end up helping cut somebody else's learning curve down, or you can make sure that you don't overlook that situation that you did previously. But I think sometimes we're in that society that's like, I want things quickly. I don't want to wait. And so that's where a lot of people end up getting themselves in trouble when it comes to running a business, starting a new endeavor, going after your dreams and passions, because it may not work the first, second, third, 10th time. And people are so quick to give up on whatever takes place because it didn't work out quickly enough. It didn't happen like they thought it was going to happen. And we can think that to a lot of what's taking place in our society, where it is a quick response. And so we're so used to having that response take place, and we don't understand the power of the journey, the power of overcoming your challenges and your obstacles. And you got to embrace those things. You got to embrace the challenges. You got to embrace the obstacles, because that's where growth is going to come into play. That's where you're going to become a better version of yourself. And the wins are great, but ultimately what's really going to force you to level up and push you to that next level is those challenges. And a lot of people, I think, don't want to embrace the challenges, don't want to love on the challenges. They start pushing and it doesn't move, and they're like, nope, I'm done. And so you end up missing out on something because you're so quick to give up. And then this dream that you had may be that true dream, but you're quick to give up and don't embrace the challenges and don't love the challenges. You miss out. And I have to laugh because, well, not really laugh. So Monday was my birthday. And so it's interesting, some of the stuff that you'll get sometimes from friends and family. So my dad actually had given this placard, I guess, to myself. And this is what he given me. I have to laugh because I was like, there's one word in this thing that really sticks out. And so what it says is, true leaders don't force people to follow. They invite them on a journey. And that last word, journey, is so unique to me because I look at what's taken place this year, especially because anybody that knows the other podcast that I run with my co-host, Marion Wilson, the journey beyond divorce. And then when I saw that, you're inviting somebody to come along with you. You're inviting your tribe that you're building to come along with you on a journey. And I think a lot of people are so prone on trying to get to the destination that they end up missing out on the journey. They end up missing out on everything that takes place with the journey and the growth that occurs going from point A to point B. Point B, you're getting to that destination, but through that whole journey, you're missing out because a lot of us it goes back to this instant gratification. It goes back to focusing on the end result instead of looking at the progression that's taken place, looking at what is taking place for you as an individual. And I think we're so quick to overlook the journey, and that's just part of life. The journey is there for a reason. You've got to embrace it. But I think we have to remember, as a leader, inviting people to come along on the journey with us is a beautiful thing. But that's where that trust factor comes into play, that when people come with you on your journey, they're trusting you to get to the end. But we got to remember that sometimes you might not get to the end. Sometimes you're going to have to pivot. You might get to a fork in the road and you don't know which direction is going to lead to what results. And so it's a matter of trusting yourself and going down that road that is pulling you. You've got your gut feel. Your gut's a second brain. So I think that's the beautiful thing, is listening to your gut, listening to what it's telling you, because that is going to lead to a better journey. But you got to remember too that every choice you make in life has consequences. And so those consequences could be good or bad. You just don't know. But it's embracing it, because those consequences are just another avenue with the challenges to grow and progress as an individual, to end up just getting to the next level through the growth that's taking place, and embracing and loving the growth. I think a lot of people have the trouble of embracing the growth because it's a scary thing. You may be going past your comfort zone, and on the other side of your comfort zone is where life is at. And so sometimes it's scary because you're used to this bubble. You're used to whatever it is for you. You're used to your little box. And then you got to bust through the boundary there, that wall, and understand that life is on the other side of your comfort zone. And so I think when you look at it, when you have these dreams, these visions, you have a goal in your heart, it can be scary because you're going past that comfort zone that you're used to. You're going past the known and going into the unknown. And so I think that's one of the big things when Patrick and I look at what we do, is we talk about taking imperfect action. Nothing's going to be perfect. Like, you have this vision of what's going to happen, but it doesn't happen that way because life likes to test you. And so Patrick and I are always talking about taking imperfect action, because there is no perfect action. If you end up trying to have everything perfect, you're going to miss out, or you're going to get lapped by other individuals that are going out there swinging the bat, only knowing 75% of the picture, the efforts, the endeavor, whatever it is. And they're just going out there and they're taking that leap of faith and trusting themselves. But you have some people that are like, well, I need to know 95% of the picture. I can't do it until I know exactly what's going to happen. And guess what? Life doesn't work that way. You're going to get curveballs thrown at you and you're going to be like, man, this is crazy. And so you're going to get lapped. And I know it's one of those things that it's a beautiful thing when you talk to individuals and speak to individuals, and they're driven on just going out and doing different things and trying without fully knowing. I think I tell a lot of people with what Patrick and I do with Two Native Sons, it's very unconventional. It's very off the cuff. Um, Everything we do is not normal. And so I love it that way. It's a beautiful thing. And it's just something that really is welcoming. It's a breath of fresh air for me, for a lot of people, because you're just going out there, you're just doing it, and you just never know and whatnot. And so I think it's just, you just got to trust yourself. But a lot of times people don't trust themselves, and then they start asking for validation. They start asking and thriving on the opinions of others, and they start looking for that groupthink for individuals that they know and they've been around forever. So they know they're going to get the answer that they're looking for because of the groupthink that takes place. And you got to understand that if you're driven by the validation of other people, what other people think, you're going to miss out. And so that's why you've got to be very cautious and be very mindful about who you're asking opinions of, whose opinion that you're really validating and finding value from, because that could be one of those things that this person tells you, yeah, it's not going to work out. And you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I don't know if it's going to work out. And then this person speaks what you're trying to look for, and then you miss out because you had somebody that agreed with you instead of somebody that's going to see more in you than you see in yourself and push yourself and be like, no, you need to go do it. You got to go try, because if you don't try, you're going to be on your deathbed and you're going to regret not taking that shot, not going out there. Because if you ask a lot of people that are dying, their regret is them not taking the shot, them not doing what they wanted to do. And so they have the regret that they didn't live life to the fullest, and they didn't live life to what mattered to them. And so that's one of the things that when you read, one of the books that really is a very power-packed filled informational book for me has been The Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani. And it's one of those books I highly suggest you read. You'll talk to a lot of people and they'll speak highly of Think and Grow Rich as being one of those books that they just read every year. And so if you're looking, if you've got a business, if you've got a passion, you've got something in your heart that's driving you, I highly suggest jumping in and reading The Buddha and the Badass. There's a lot that Vishen brings to light that a lot of companies don't do. And it goes in line with what Two Native Sons is all about, is being that uncommon, off the cuff, creating is the Fuji lifestyle. And a lot of it really has been as a result of reading the book, and actually doing the exercises. So that's the thing. When you read a book, if you have exercises in the book, you need to do those exercises, because that's what's going to make that information stick. That's what's really going to drive for that information to be held and be powerful for you as an individual. And so one of the big things that I've talked to individuals is the idea of your foundational values. And so you've got to do some deep dive. You got to do some deep work. And sometimes with the exercise, you've got to go back to your past and look and see what values really drive you. And so for myself, my four foundational values that really drive me are love, value, connection, and growth. And it's just through doing the exercise. And it's a powerful thing, because those are what really drives me. And it's an underlying factor too with Two Native Sons, for myself being one of the co-visionary founders of the company, and just doing big things. So It's one of those books that I've talked to Patrick about, and it's those things that really will separate you as an individual. If you got a business, it's very powerful because it will separate you as an owner and as a boss from other businesses, because you've got to understand that they run a program called, and I don't know if it's exactly called this, but it's through another book that I've listened to, and it's called the Dream Manager program. And what it entails is going through this exercise, and it's the three most important questions. What experiences do you want in life? How do you want to grow? And how do you want to contribute? And the powerful thing with this as a business owner, as a leader within a division of a company, by knowing those three most important questions and what it pertains to those that you're leading, those that are part of the company, part of your division, by knowing what somebody dreams about, how they want to grow, how they want to contribute to the world, it separates you, because then you can start finding ways to really help these individuals obtain those three most important questions, those different avenues that really stick out for them as an individual and drives who they are and what they do. Because the biggest thing that we have to understand is employees are very loyal to a company that looks at them as an individual, not just a number. And so it's one of those things that you've got to take the time and you've got to figure out who your individuals are, what drives them, and ultimately what is going to help them. Because I think the most powerful thing, and this was actually something Patrick shared too, that he has implemented within his agency, is giving time to his employees during the month, and he's paying them for that time to go after what they dream about, whatever they're passionate about. He's paying them to allow them during the work week and during the work hours to go do that. And think about what that would mean for you as an individual if you had somebody that really cared for you and really knew what drove you and what you're passionate about, and allowed you to go chase after those passions. What that would do for you as an individual when you look at somebody that truly cares for you. And so it's so funny when you reflect back on things. And Patrick has brought this up before within other Dreamer Cyphers. I know I've talked a little bit about it, but I was doing the three most important questions. And one of the experiences that I had written down was writer. And so this was like 2 hours before Patrick and I had sat down, and really the brainchild and the thought process started taking place with the creation of Two Native Sons. He had asked me, he's like, hey, have you thought about writing a book? And so I was like, funny thing is, 2 hours, that's some of them before we sat down and talked, I had written it down. And I think I had shown him this. And then I believe he was the fourth or fifth person in about a month maybe that had asked that question, hey, have you thought about writing a book? And so Patrick had brought that up, and I was like, okay, you know what? This is a sign. Quit fighting it. Let's swing the bat. Let's just go. And so it's unique and it's powerful. And when you look back and reflect and kind of see how things have lined up to get to where they're at now. And then the other thing that I'm looking at is we have our merch that we have that individuals can purchase. But we were doing some work late at night with some t-shirt designs, just messing with it, and just to see that point where we were envisioning merchandise and just seeing it on the computer screen, and then seeing it come to fruition. And I think it was about a month and a half after we had talked about it. And then we've worked with individuals with helping create the design work, Duran Reese and Patrick Massey, and then working with Gary and Dorinda with Design Your Life, with bringing that to life. It's just powerful when you really dream and you don't hold anything back. You just go after it, because you just never know what can take place. You never know who you're going to cross paths with that will help bring those ideas to life. And so it's one of those things that I've talked, and you'll hear people talk about it, that you've got to share your vision and dream with others, but you got to be ready and mentally strong enough, because if you're just starting that process and you haven't worked on yourself, and you start sharing what you see, your visions and dreams, with other people, and you share it with small-minded individuals, you could be potentially punched in the gut, thrown off the rail, and your dreams are given up on because you're not mentally strong enough, which is a sad thing, but it's the truth. And so that's where it's the necessary aspect of you doing the work as an individual, working on yourself, working on your mind, because your most powerful asset that you have is your mind. And so you've got to understand that working on the internal piece is going to affect your external piece. But a lot of times people look at it differently of, let me work on the external piece, and that will in turn go and impact that internal piece, being your mindset. But you've got to do it differently. You've got to work on yourself, get mentally strong enough to understand that you're going to come across people that don't dream big. You're going to come across people that have given up on their dreams and are looking for ways to kind of pull everybody else down, because they don't dream anymore and they've given up on their dreams. And so you've got to do that work. It's not easy work, but it's necessary work that you've got to work on yourself. You've got to work on your spirit and your mind. And that's the power of personal development. That's the power of surrounding yourself, creating a tribe, a community of individuals that see more in you than you see in yourself, that are going to push you and elevate you. And you may not like it, because it's starting to get to that point where you're getting pushed into your comfort zone, and you may get blasted past that boundary. And so growth is not fun. Growth is not easy, but it's one of those pieces that you've got to really work on. You've got to work on yourself and find the people to surround yourself with. And so I think ultimately I'm just grateful for Patrick and his dreamer aspect, his self as being a visionary, and just really coming together and having a social impact empire that is doing big things and changing the lives of others. And really, we're driven on the success of others. And we are constantly looking to highlight those individuals, those individuals that may not have the voice or may not believe in themselves a lot. Maybe they're lacking that self-confidence. And so it's just one of those things, like Patrick talks a lot, is one of the things that we help teach individuals is to give yourself grace, to find that potential in yourself and go after it. We're here as a sounding board. We're here just to help individuals out. And sometimes it's one of those things that you look and you're like, is it going fast enough? Are we doing enough? And we're only two people. And so that's the blessing that we have with the individuals that we're working with. I have to give a shout out to Jasper Axelrad with Tabala Cuisine and what she has done as a sponsor with Two Native Sons. And I've told her before, I was like, she does more than I could ever imagine a sponsor ever doing for a business. She's very driven on the collaboration piece, that collaboration net, and she's always driven and finding different ways to help showcase what we're doing. And so it's a great thing to have somebody in your corner like that that does see big, dream big, and is constantly looking for ways to do more. And so it's a very awesome thing to have a sponsor that's just driven that way and whatnot. But I think the biggest thing that we have to do as a society, as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, is you've got to understand that some things don't come very quickly. You've got to understand that we've got to get into the mindset of a crock pot society where it takes time for it to grow, to simmer, to come together and really bring it together. But the thing that you have to be mindful about too is that collaboration piece and coming and finding people that you can work with and not be jaded. Because a lot of times we get into a situation that something has happened in our past, and then we take that situation and let it continue to shape future interactions, future endeavors. And you can't do it. You've got to look at the previous situation and say, okay, what lessons do I need to learn from that previous situation and bring it forward? And you got to ultimately let people show who they truly are. I think sometimes we have the issue where people have gotten into the situation and they've been jaded. And so they're looking at other individuals and really saying, okay, this person is this way because of what happened in the past. And we can't do that. We've got to really allow people to show who they truly are, show their true colors, really show that true self. And so you've got to be a little cautious, but ultimately everybody's different. That chapter, that book cover that you see of somebody, you've got to get past it and get inside and really see who that person is. And you've got to let that person really just speak for themselves. And so I think this is one thing, I don't know if I've touched on it before, maybe I haven't, but it was something that I was talking to a friend yesterday. And so a couple of things that we had talked about. One was we've got to really be mindful that our biggest asset to make money and to really achieve the dreams that we want is ourselves. And that's your health. Your health is your biggest asset. And so people are so quick on trying to make so much money, but then their health gets to put to the back burner. And if you're going to do big things, you've got to be healthy. Your biggest asset to make money is your health and your well-being. And so you've got to take care of yourself. And I think we have a lot of people that are starting to see that and things that are taking place. It has opened up the window where we've got to really be mindful about our health and our well-being, because how do you expect to reach your dreams, your goals, your vision, your mission, whatever it may be? How do you expect to get there if you're not healthy? And so you've got to really be mindful about that. But the other thing I was discussing, and I think this is something that's important that we have to take into consideration, is when you've had a relationship with somebody, you've had a business interaction with somebody, and maybe they didn't fit you as an individual. Maybe they weren't your cup of tea. Maybe they weren't meant to be part of what you're looking to accomplish. And so they're just not part of that journey. And so there's going to be times that you may get burnt, you might get upset, you might get mad. And so instead of burning this person, you probably know something about this person that's a great quality. And so you may have somebody that comes up and talks to you and says, hey, what do you know about Bob? what do you think about Bob? And so maybe you haven't had a great experience with Bob. And instead of burning this person and causing that other person to potentially miss out on the blessing that they need, miss out on the opportunity for a relationship that is meant for their life, you've blown that out of the water by bad mouthing this person because you had the bad experience. So instead of bad mouthing the person or being hurtful, highlight whatever you know that's good of that person. If you don't remember anything, or you're just so hurt that you're like, nah, you can be like, hey, Bob's a great person. I would highly suggest you go talk to them and see who they are and find out if that's a relationship that's meant for you as an individual, and go from there. And I think if we went about it that way instead of a lot of this ticky-tacky bullshit where people want to go burn somebody because they're mad and they hate them. No, like, don't do that, because you potentially have it where this person misses out on a great opportunity. They miss out on a great relationship that was meant for them. So not everybody's going to fit you. Not everybody's going to be your cup of tea. It's also in line with what I talk about, where you either love me or you hate me, but there's no in between. So it's the same thing here. If you're at a point where you don't like somebody, don't burn them. Let that other person experience who they are. And you just understand that you could have the power by how you speak, how you view other people, that could be beneficial to the other person. And so you just never know. But it's one of those ideas, it's one of those concepts that has been popping up. And when I look at it, I'm like, it's occurred for a reason. It's occurred for whatever reason it had to be spoken. Maybe I haven't been the greatest person, and maybe I've done that before. I try my best. I'm a person too, though. So, and that's where I tell people, I'm like, don't put me on this pedestal. Don't think I know everything. I don't know everything. I'm not the end all be all for anything. I just know what I've gone through, my experiences and whatnot. And so I don't want individuals to create these predetermined resentments because they've put me up and they put other people up on a pedestal. And then all of a sudden we're human, we make a mistake and we fall down. So we have to understand that we're all on the same playing field. We're all on the same level playing field. And so we have to work together. It's that collaboration piece. But we have to understand too, like, not everybody's going to be our cup of tea. Not everybody's going to be part of our journey. And so you can't force the relationship. You just got to be yourself. You got to show up, be your true self. Don't be your pseudo self. Too many people, and I brought this up before too, I think within the business industry, within the business networking community, there's some people that show up as their pseudo self, and they're not showing up as their true self because they're trying to put up a front, or they are following along with a paradigm that's been stuck in their head that society is saying this is how it has to be. And it may not be for you. This paradigm that's been stuffed in your head may not be you. And so you've got to break it down. You've got to look at it, and you've got to question it. And so by questioning it, by looking at it and really say, hey, is this truly who I am? Is this something that really is going to fill me as an individual? That's going to allow you to show up as your true self, your true solid self in that situation, regardless of what it is. Because if you're showing up as your fake pseudo self, people can pick that up. I was telling, I think it was Patrick, or I was telling somebody that your heart puts off a 6-foot radius of energy. And so think about it. If you're showing up as your pseudo self and you're not being your true solid self, people can pick that up. And that's very powerful when it comes to building a business, when it comes to building a relationship. If you're not showing up as your true self, people pick it up and they start turning away. They don't want to be around these individuals because you're not being your true solid self. And that can be scary because it's the vulnerability piece, it's the transparency piece. And that's where it comes down to, I think my biggest thing is you either love me or you hate me. There's no in between. Because it helps me out just to be my solid self, my true self. Because I know I'm not gonna click with everybody. I'm not gonna mesh with everybody, which is okay. That's how life works. I'm not going to try to force a fake relationship because of XYZ. Hey, what's up, Adam? Just think if Vincio's thought about others. Well, I look at it because being in the military, that's one of those things that you just let's show this here. Yeah, but it's coming from the military. I spent time in the military. I'm in the reserves now and whatnot. But we've really had it where a lot of people have gotten burnt, and so we also have the aspect of trying to make sure people conform to rules and regulations. And so it can be a tough thing. But that's also where people have to take the time to really get to know their individuals and understand that it's not about themselves. They need to take the spotlight off of themselves and put the spotlight on other people. But we've had people that have been burnt before, and so they get angry and they get very vindictive. They get jaded, and then they try to take it out on other people, and that just doesn't work in the end because sometimes you're going to have short-term gratitude, or you're going to have short-term results, and in the long run, you're going to end up getting shot in the foot in the long run because your true self is not there. It's that pseudo self. You're not showing up as your true self. And so I think it's just one of those things that it goes individual by individual. And that can be tough because if you're trying to make a change and you're constantly getting pushed back on, it can be tough for people. And so I think that's where ultimately sometimes you're going to make head waves and you're going to piss people off. But if you're really, truly focused on the greater good, you're focused on other people, you take the spotlight off yourself and put it on to other people, it's going to make the change that you're looking for. But it can be scary in the long run because some people have been impacted by it. And so I would much rather know at the end of the day that I'm being my true solid self and not being a pseudo self of myself. And so that's one of those tough things for individuals because of the paradigm, what we've been told. And sometimes it's the fact of not wanting to be judged. Conform, it's hard as an NCO. It's like it's different rules. Yeah. This is one of those things that it's tough. It is truly tough. Because if you start conforming, you start losing yourself. And it's one of those tough things. Right. It's what we've been told. Yeah. And so that's where it's the groupthink. It's been done this way before, so we're going to keep doing it. But then you're going to have people that will rise up and push back against it. And because you're dealing with a very large systematic of groupthink, and this is how it's always been done, that's a very deadly thing to say. Because it's been done this way before, we're going to keep going that route. It's not a good thing because And you were my boss, man. Appreciate that, Adam. Yes, very true. But it's just one of those. It's a tough thing. It ultimately is a tough thing. But if you start being the face of change, you've got to push. You've got to make the change and understand that sometimes you're going to get that pushback. But I ultimately think if you've got that conviction and you can bring to light, hey, if this change comes into play, you're going to see a big difference. But I think this also comes into play at the lower level where you might have to start making that change on your own, small sweeping changes and whatnot. So I would say one book to look into is The Buddha and the Badass by Vishen Lakhiani, a great book. But ultimately, it kind of comes down to, as the NCO, taking the time to get to know your people. And that can be tough because you might have like 15 people that you might be supervising. And so it's taking that time. But if you really take the time to get to know somebody and look at them as an individual, it speaks volumes. And so the other thing, if you're looking and you understand what drives this person and you can help them go after what they're looking at with their life, just imagine what that does for you as an individual that's looking as you as a leader, a mentor, what that does. It's that change piece that is not the easiest, but it has to take place. And if we keep pushing back and saying, well, this is how it's always been, and this is how we always do things, and we keep pushing it back and back and back, when is change going to take place? It won't ever, because people are constantly going to say, nope, it's always been this way. So they're going to just keep pushing it. And then you never see change take place. And then you're in the same boat where people are getting upset because they want to see change take place, but nobody's taking the leadership role. Nobody's taking that mentorship role and whatnot. So I appreciate what all you're saying. A lot of NCOs should see this. Well, if you want to share the video, more power to you. I tell people to share it if you find value in it. Just understand, people will be like, what is this? So it takes a different mindset. It takes the work. But I do appreciate that, Adam. It just comes down to the fact of using the platform and just speaking. And it's what we call ILT, Invest, Learn, Teach. And so it's just taking the time. And with social media, it's a huge platform that can really make change and make impact. And I could have said something today that really stuck out to somebody and been that 1 degree of change that they need. I just can't judge, and I don't know what I say or what I do that's going to make that change and whatnot. But I appreciate that, Adam. Hopefully everything's going well for you, man. Hopefully your family's doing well. Thank you for the interaction here. So getting ready to sign off. Just had to jump on today because we normally do our Dreamer Cypher every Wednesday. And my business partner, Patrick, right now is on the mend. So the show continues. The show must move on and whatnot. So other than that, thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you for sticking through and listening to me talk. It's one of those things that sometimes it's a unique thing. Openly speaking, and you just don't know how it's going to be taken and received. And so I think that's one of the big things in regards to individuals. If you're watching this, take advantage of the platforms. It's scary because you don't know who's listening. You don't know what reactions you're going to get, but you got to take advantage of the platforms and what you can do for individuals through just taking the time, jumping on and speaking and whatnot. And the other thing you have to understand is we all have a message that somebody else needs to hear. You just never know who's going to come across your message at what time. and what it's going to do for those individuals. So other than that, I'll catch everyone later. Hopefully next week it's myself, Patrick, and a special co-host for the Dreamer Cypher. But other than that, you guys have a great night. I'll catch you guys later. All right, peace.